What's going on, everybody? Gilfest 2020 was just announced today, and Xzero and SaberofAvalon also just released their spreadsheet on the comps to use for Gilfest. And I'm going to sort of go over what comps I think are going to be the best, and which ones are sort of just free to play friendly that sort of everybody can run. And again, huge shout out to Xzero and SaberofAvalon for putting together this spreadsheet, and I'll link the spreadsheet down in the description below. So first I want to talk about the two CEs that are relevant to this event. We have here the lottery CE that you can get from in the shop. You can buy it with the bronze, silver, and gold currency, which are here, the fries, hot dogs, and burgers. And then there's also the damage CE, which increases the damage that your servants can do when equipped, and you get that from clearing the first 5 boxes in the lottery, and that's sort of like the last reward you get from the box. Both of these Cs are really important because one increases the drops for the lottery boxes, and the other increases the damage your servants do, and some comps, especially some of the more free-to-play ones, rely on having the max unbroken damage CE. And there's going to be 3 different rounds during the event. In the first round, you have 3 waves of Lancers, Berserkers, and a final Romulus and Caligula. So the first comp I want to talk about is this 5-turn one here, and when it says like 5 slot, that means you're running 5 of the lottery ticket Cs. And if it's like a 6C slot, that means it'll run 6 lottery Cs, but most of those are super whales where you have to have like an MP5 5-star to essentially do those. So I would recommend, of course, looking through all the comps, but more often than not, it's going to be a 5-slot setup you're going to be running. Now this first one, as you can see right here, requires some excellent broken CE, damage CE, and you're going to be running 5 of the event lottery CEs. It requires Paracelsus to clear wave 1, and then you essentially use Siegfried to kill off waves 2 and 3. And as you can see, Siegfried, welfare servant we got recently, so you should have him. And the others is a waiver plus either a Scotty or waiver. At the top it tells you the skills needed to require, but this one is really free to play friendly for the first round, and it's a 5-slot comp, which is always really nice. And if you want like details exactly what skills and stuff to use, you can look here. It'll tell you exactly what skills to use in which wave. Next one is a super whale. I guess not a huge whale comp, but it requires a maximum per case scope, and this is what I'm going to be using. And this one actually works in all the waves. It's a max slim broken case scope on a Lancelot Zerker and double Scotty. And as you can see, you just use Lancelot to clear the first 2 waves, and mine's only like MP2, so it doesn't always clean nicely, but since your Lancelot's MPing on the second wave, you're going to have a whole bunch of crit stars for the third wave, so it'll be easy enough to crit down Romulus even on a low roll. Next one I want to talk about is similar to the double Scotty and maximum broken case scope, except the Lancelot, he's going to use a Holy Night Supper or Holy Night Dinner. You could also use a maximum broken golden sumo, and what you do is Paracelsus to clear wave 1, then you use waiver to buff up Zerkalot on wave 2, so MP's there, and then third wave you depend on his refund to get up to 50%, and then you plug Scotty in and use her to get Lancelot to be able to MP again. And even though, as you can see, it doesn't always clearly clean, even at MP5, but you're going to be getting a whole bunch of crit stars, and as long as you get like a 1 Lancelot face card, you should be able to finish him off. And even though this may not be optimal. If you have to like 4 or 5 turn, running 5 Cs is still really efficient, even if it takes you to face card the final wave, because you want to just do as many boxes as you can. And the final comp I want to talk about is Arturia plus either double waiver plus Scotty or double Scotty plus waiver. In this one, you're using Arturia to actually MP on all 3 waves. For this one, you Arturia MP wave 1 with the help of the case scope that's not maximum broken, just a normal case scope. And then use waivers attack and defense buffs, plug them out to a Scotty, and you use waivers first skill to get 30% plus Arturia's 20% from the refund, and then Scotty's 50%, so that gets her fully back up to 50% on wave 2. You can MP, and then even at MP1 it might not kill, but you can easily face card with Arturia since it's going to be a Lancer enemy left. And then the final wave, you use Scotty's plus Arturia's 20% refund, and then Arturia's third skill, which gives her another 30% battery, and you use that to kill the last wave. And even at MP1 it still might not kill Romulus, but same wave as before, where you can use Arturia's face cards to clear off Romulus. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the one comp I did really recommend, especially for free to play, is this Paracelsus Sieg and either double waiver or waiver and Scotty, since all it really requires you to have is a waiver, since the other one's a 3-star you can easily get, and then a really recent welfare servant at MP5 that you should have at MP5. For round 2, it's going to be 3 waves of assassins with low health ones on the first, 2 low health and a 83k assassin on the second wave, and then the final wave is 150k Fuma and a 160k Danzo. Now, the first comp I want to bring to attention is actually one in the round 1, which is the Paracelsus Sieg and either double waiver or waiver and Scotty. You can run that one on this wave as well, and the great thing about this one is it should be able to finish cleanly, unlike the first one where you had a sort of face card at the end. So if you use that on round 1, this one fits really nicely. You can use it again in wave 2. You could also use this Nitocris if you don't have Sig for whatever reason, and Paracelsus and double waiver or waiver Scotty. Works similar as the last one, except it uses Nitocris instead of Siegfried, and Siegfried's skill requirements was pretty high. You had to have, I believe it was 9, 9, 10, as you can see up here above him. 9, 9, 10, whereas the Nitocris comp, it only requires you to level her middle skill to 8. So for some of you, it may be worth doing this instead if you don't have the resources to level up your Siegfried and you have a decently leveled Nitocris. And if you are, for some reason, don't have Nitocris at a high MP level, but you do have a Kiara, you can use that instead. It works the exact same way. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use the same Zerkalot double Scotty. You can clear this one as well. Same with the other Zerkalot where it doesn't require maximum broken case scope. You can use that one on this wave as well, except it requires a bit more base carding, but like the last wave, as long as you get a Zerkalot face card, he's going to generate a ton of stars, so either the turn he MPs on third wave or the turn after, either time, you're going to get a lot of stars, and you should be able to finish it off in either 3 or 4 turns pretty cleanly, unless you get really bad car RNG. On the guide, there is also 3 slot examples, but I don't really recommend using these because even though they may be fast, you're losing out on a ton of lottery currency each run. And especially if you're not planning to use rainbow apples, if you're just using your gold apples, it's probably not going to be worth using this 3 slot, and more worth it to you to take a few extra turns and sort of suffer through that and face carding instead of focusing purely on speed. But hey, I guess if you don't have any of the higher comps and you are willing to use a lot of Saint Quartz and you're all about speed, some of these 3-turn comps might or 3 slot comps might be okay to use then. And for the third and final rotation, the first wave is 3 low health assassins. The second wave is 2 low health assassins and an 80k saber. And the final wave is a 160k Musashi and a 100k Okasaka Behime. For this comp, the first one I want to point out is this Paracelsus Jarcher Waver Scotty. You use the maximum broken damage C on your Jarcher, and even at MP1, it'll have enough power to loop and clear the final wave. You might have face card a little bit, but as you can see, even with the min roll, it's only about 40k health left. So use Paracelsus to clear wave 1, and then you use Jarcher to clear waves 1 and 2 and rely on the 60% refund from wave 2 to be able to MP on wave 3. The second comp I want to talk about is this Atlanta Archer, Helena, and Double Scotty. You essentially have Atlanta loop all 3 waves, and it does require at 1 case cope, but it's not maximum broken. And you essentially use Helena to buff Atlanta enough so she can MP on the first wave, and that sort of takes away the need for the max limit broken case scope. And if you do have a max limit broken case scope, then you can use that instead of relying on Helena. Instead, just use a Double Scotty instead. Another comp you can use is what you can use on the other ones, where you use Paracelsus wave 1 and then rely on a maximum broken either Holy Knight Dinner or a maximum broken Golden Sumo with your Zerkalot, and you use him to MP waves 2 and 3 with the help of Waver and Scotty. And the final comp I wanted to talk about for the final wave is Paracelsus wave 1, and you use Nito Chris plus either a double Waver or a Waver and Scotty to clear waves 2 and 3. You equip Nito with some maximum broken CE, and you use her to clear waves 2 and 3. Now, she might have some trouble at lower MP levels killing off Musashi even with the max limit broken CE, but you can easily just face card the Musashi down and make it a 4-turn clear instead of a 3-turn clear. And one last thing I wanted to add is even though this guide has a whole bunch of team comps and recommendations, that's all they are, is that they're just recommendations, and you might have to adapt based on the servants and the levels you have for your account. An example like this is the Paracelsus Zerker Lot Waver Scotty setup for round 1, where it assumes that it's a max unbroken Holy Night Supper that is also level 100, and let's say yours is only like level 70 and you're not refunding enough at like a low MP level like MP1. So even though the guide says to use Scotty's AoE defense down on wave 3, you might want to use it on wave 2 instead in order to be able to refund enough MP gauge to MP on the third and final wave, because that's what's most important, is to essentially get enough MP gauge so you can loop on the final wave. And even though you might do less damage with your MP on the final wave, you can at least face card your way out of it, where if you don't do enough damage on like a wave 2 to get enough MP gauge for the final wave, then that completely messes up the looping and you might lose some of the buffs you applied at earlier waves. And like I said, I'll leave a link to this Google Docs down in the description now that it is open and available to everybody. So you can sort of go through, and then maybe there's a team comp that in the spreadsheet that is in here that I didn't go over. Maybe you do have a Danteus that's like MP5 or something, then you can use this one. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll be sort of just scrolling through and trying to answer them as best as I can. Thanks for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.